It was one of those rare, quiet mornings where everything seemed to be in place. The house was still, except for the sound of the coffee machine whirring in the kitchen. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and for a moment, I almost forgot the weight of everything that had happened in the past few months. My daughter Emily's wedding had been beautiful, flawless, even. All the planning, the decisions, the stresses, it had all been worth it when I saw her walking down the aisle, radiant, ready to begin her life with Derek. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. The caller ID didn't look familiar, but I picked it up anyway. Maybe it was someone from the wedding venue following up or one of the many suppliers checking in. "Hello, Mrs. Davenport?" The voice on the other end was calm but carried an undercurrent of urgency. "Yes, this is she." "Who's calling?" I answered, taking a sip from my coffee. "This is David, the photographer who covered Emily's wedding last weekend," the voice continued. "I'm afraid there's something you need to see." "It's important, Mrs. Davenport." I set my coffee cup down, my heart racing a little faster. "A photographer? What on earth could he want with me?" "Excuse me?" I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's this about?" "The wedding went fine, didn't it?" "It did, ma'am, but I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never had to make a call like this. You need to see the photos we took. There's something you didn't notice during the ceremony, and I think you need to know about it." My stomach turned. What could possibly be in the photos that I hadn't seen? "I'm not sure I understand," I said, trying to keep the rising panic out of my voice. "What do you mean?" "I'm sorry to have to tell you this over the phone, but there's someone in the background of the photos who shouldn't have been there. Someone close to your daughter's fiancé, Derek. And, well, I can't explain it all right now, but I think it's important you see the pictures for yourself." I felt my throat tighten. What was he talking about? A person in the background? And who was this person? I hadn't seen anyone suspicious at the wedding, at least not that I could remember. Everyone had been focused on Emily and Derek, just as they should have been. "David, what are you saying? What do these photos show?" I asked, my voice cracking slightly despite myself. "I can't say much more over the phone. But believe me, Mrs. Davenport, you need to see these pictures. It's not just about a guest in the background, it's about what happened between them and Derek. Something was going on, and I think you deserve to know the truth." I was silent for a long time, trying to process what he was saying. My mind was racing, and yet, I couldn't make sense of it. Emily had been so happy, Derek had been so charming. Their love had seemed genuine. "I'll send them over now," David continued. "Just, trust me on this. Please." Before I could respond, he hung up. I sat frozen in my kitchen, staring at the phone in my hand. What had just happened? Why would a photographer be telling me this? What could possibly have gone wrong at Emily's wedding that I wasn't aware of? I glanced at the wedding album on the shelf nearby. There was Emily, radiant in her dress, Derek beside her, smiling like the world was at their feet. I had watched them exchange vows, seen the joy on their faces, the way they looked at each other as if no one else existed in the world. But now, David's words echoed in my mind, someone in the background who shouldn't have been there. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Who was this person? And how could they be connected to Derek? My mind scrambled for answers, but nothing seemed to make sense. Just then, my phone buzzed, snapping me from my thoughts. I had a new email. It was from David. I opened it immediately, barely able to steady my shaking hands. The first photo was attached. At first glance, it seemed like one of the usual shots, Emily and Derek standing in front of the altar, bathed in soft light. But as I looked closer, I saw something in the background. A man, standing off to the side, just behind Derek. His posture was tense, his face partially obscured by the shadows, but there was something unmistakable about his expression. Something was off. He was too close to Derek, and the way he was looking at him, it wasn't normal. I scrolled through the other photos, each one revealing more of the man in the background. In every single one, he was there, lurking just out of sight, but unmistakable if you looked hard enough. His gaze seemed too intense, too familiar. But who was he? The more I looked, the more I felt something deep inside me shift. This wasn't just a random guest. This was someone Derek knew. But why had he been keeping him in the shadows? What had happened between them at the wedding? And then, in the last photo, my breath caught in my throat. The man was standing next to Derek, his hand on his shoulder, closer than anyone should have been on a day like that. Their body language was too intimate, too knowing. My head was spinning. What was I supposed to do with this? My daughter's wedding had been a fairy tale, at least in my mind. It had been perfect. Now, it felt like everything was crumbling around me, piece by piece. I could feel the weight of the photos pressing down on me. I had to know what had really happened that day. I barely slept that night. The images kept replaying in my head, every angle, every detail of that one disturbing moment. The man in the background, Derek's strange behavior, the odd, unexplained closeness between them. I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeply wrong had happened at Emily's wedding. But what? What did all of this mean? By morning, I had made my decision. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't pretend everything was still as perfect as it had seemed. I had to talk to Emily. But how do you even start a conversation like that? Hey, honey, I saw something disturbing in your wedding pictures. There's this guy in the background who looks like he's hiding something with Derek. It sounded insane, even to me. But I knew I couldn't ignore it. I called Emily's phone 3 times that morning, but each time, it went straight to voicemail. It wasn't unusual, she'd been busy with the honeymoon and settling into married life. But the longer she avoided me, the more anxious I became. What if she already knew? What if Derek had kept it from her, just like he'd kept it from me? By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I called again. Hi, Mom. Emily's cheerful voice greeted me when she finally answered. Hi, sweetie, how are you? I asked, trying to keep my tone light, though my heart was pounding. I'm good. Derek and I are just getting everything in order for the house. You know, the usual after a wedding, so much to do. I could hear the excitement in her voice, and for a second, I almost forgot the weight of the call I had to make. Almost. I need to talk to you about something, I said, my voice shaking slightly. It's important. Her tone shifted. What's wrong, Mom? You sound serious. I saw something in the wedding photos, I began, but my words trailed off. How could I even explain it? Wedding photos? Mom, what do you mean? Emily's voice was full of concern now. I took a deep breath. There's a man in the background of some of the pictures. I don't recognize him. And he's too close to Derek. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't sit right with me. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Mom, are you sure? Emily finally said, her voice quiet and uncertain. What do you mean, too close? I'm sure. I've looked at them over and over. He's standing by Derek in several photos, and there's something in the way they're standing, the way they're looking at each other. I don't know how to describe it, but it feels wrong. I could hear her shift in her seat. Mom, you're overthinking it. Maybe it was just a guest or a photographer's assistant. You're being paranoid. I wasn't buying it. Emily, I don't think I'm overthinking it. This man isn't a guest or an assistant. He's someone important to Derek, and whatever's happening between them is more than just friendly. There's something hidden here. Emily was quiet for a long time. I could hear her breathing on the other end, but she didn't speak. Please, Emily, I continued, I need you to tell me the truth. Is there something you're not telling me about Derek? About this man? Finally, Emily sighed. Mom. I don't know what to say. Derek has a past. I never wanted to bring it up, but he does. There's a lot of things he's not proud of, things he hasn't told me. And maybe I've been too blind to see it all. My heart sank. Emily, what do you mean? What kind of past are we talking about? I don't know the full details, she said, her voice filled with frustration and confusion, but I know Derek had some trouble with people from his old life. There are people from his past who are still connected to him. I didn't want to ask too many questions, because I thought we were moving forward. But now, looking at the photos and hearing you talk about this man, I'm starting to wonder if I was too naive. I closed my eyes, trying to process what she was saying. My mind was spinning. Derek, the charming fiancé who had won us all over, was hiding something. Something dark. Do you think this man is someone from Derek's past? I asked softly. I think so, Emily admitted. I don't know for sure, but he looked familiar. I've seen him around once or twice, but Derek always avoided introducing us. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid, but now, I'm not so sure. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. Emily, you need to tell me everything you know about Derek's past. All of it. This man, whoever he is, he's part of the puzzle. And I'm not letting this go until we get to the bottom of it. I will, Mum. I promise. But I need time to figure things out myself, too. I don't want to confront Derek without knowing the whole story. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Okay. But just know that I'm here for you, no matter what. And we'll find out what's really going on. After I hung up, I sat there for a while, feeling a mixture of anger and fear building inside me. Emily was starting to see the cracks in Derek's facade, but what if it was too late? What if Derek had already manipulated her into believing he was someone he wasn't? I couldn't shake the feeling that the wedding, the fairy tale I thought it was, had been nothing but an elaborate lie. A lie that was starting to unravel. The moment I hung up the phone with Emily, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't sit idly by, waiting for Derek to come clean or for Emily to piece things together on her own. This was my daughter's life, her marriage, and it was clear to me now that there were dark corners in Derek's past that needed to be exposed. I started with the only lead I had, the man in the photos. I didn't know his name, didn't know who he was or why he was connected to Derek, but I had to start somewhere. I spent the rest of the afternoon researching, scrolling through old social media posts and news articles in an attempt to find any hint of this man. It wasn't easy. Derek was meticulous about keeping his personal life private. His social media accounts were clean, no mention of anyone other than close friends and family. I tried to trace back any mutual connections between him and the mysterious man, but everything led to dead ends. No pictures, no public interactions. It was like this man didn't exist outside of the wedding photos I'd seen. I couldn't give up. Emily had said Derek had a past, and though she hadn't been clear on what that past was, I was beginning to suspect it had more to do with this man than I had originally thought. I needed more information. The next step was simple, but risky. I contacted an old friend of mine, Karen, who worked as a private investigator. She'd helped me in the past with smaller matters, lost pets, missing documents, the like, but this felt different. It felt dangerous. But if anyone could dig into Derek's past, it was Karen. I called her later that evening, my voice steady but urgent. Karen, I need your help with something. I need you to look into a man, his name's Derek Turner. He's my daughter's husband, and I think he's hiding something. There's someone from his past I need to find. There was a long pause on the line. Okay, she said finally. I can do that. But I'm going to warn you, you're about to uncover some things you might not want to know. Are you sure you're ready for that? I didn't hesitate. Yes. I need to know everything. This isn't just about me. It's about Emily. I need to protect her. Karen gave me the information I needed to get started. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. I sat up, my laptop glowing in the dark, while I waited for Karen to send me what she'd found. The next morning, Karen called. I've got some information for you, she said, her voice grave. Derek Turner has a record. A sealed record, but it's there. My heart sank. What kind of record? It's not clear yet, but I found some references to an incident in his early 20s. Something about an assault charge. The file's sealed, so I can't get the details right now, but I'm working on it. There's also some mention of him being involved with a few shady people from the past, people with criminal backgrounds. You might want to be careful. I could barely process the words. Assault? Shady people? This wasn't the Derek I thought I knew. What else? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Give me a few more days, Karen replied. I'll dig deeper and see what I can find. But it's not going to be easy. These things don't come up overnight. I thanked her and hung up, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in my chest. The next few days felt like an eternity. I did my best to keep things normal, but every time I looked at Emily, I saw her as more vulnerable than I had before. The woman she had married, the man I thought I had welcomed into our family, was beginning to look more like a stranger. Then, 2 days later, Karen called again. I've got the rest of it, she said, her voice low. You're not going to like this, but it's worse than I thought. Derek Turner has been involved in more than one violent incident, and there's more to that assault charge than anyone knew. I've got names, dates, and even a connection to a well-known criminal syndicate. It's a mess, Rose. Your daughter is marrying a man with a dangerous past, and I don't think he's done with it yet. I sat down, the weight of her words crushing me. Everything was falling apart. My daughter had married a man who wasn't who he seemed. Derek's past was something I couldn't ignore any longer. The man in the background of the wedding photos wasn't a random guest, he was connected to Derek's dark past. But Emily was still in the dark. She didn't know any of this, and I had to tell her. But how? I couldn't let this go on any longer. I couldn't breathe. The weight of everything I'd uncovered about Derek felt like it was suffocating me. It was one thing to suspect something was wrong, but now, having it confirmed, the violence, the criminal connections, the man I thought was a respectable fiancé, was hiding more than I could have ever imagined. My world was spinning. And the hardest part? Emily had no idea. The time had come. I had to confront him. I couldn't let my daughter stay in the dark any longer. Derek had fooled all of us, but the truth had a way of surfacing, no matter how hard someone tried to bury it. I made the call to Emily's house that morning. I needed to speak to Derek, face to face. Hi, Mum, how's everything? Emily answered, still carrying that same enthusiasm in her voice. I could hear the background noise of their new home, the sound of drawers being opened and closed, probably in the middle of unpacking boxes. I need to talk to Derek, I said, not wasting any time. Is he there? There was a hesitation. Yeah, he's here. I can put him on the phone. Please. I didn't need to hear anything else from her. I just needed Derek to answer. Moments later, Derek's voice came through the line. Hey, Rose. What's up? The casual tone was infuriating. How could he be so calm, knowing what I knew? I need to talk to you, Derek. In person. Right now. Sure. What's going on? Is everything all right? He asked, his voice still steady, but I could sense a flicker of something in it, a slight wariness. I'll be over in 20 minutes, I said, my voice firm, even though my hands were shaking. I hung up before he could respond. The drive to their house felt like an eternity. Every red light seemed to stretch the minutes, every passing car a reminder that I was about to walk into something that could change everything. What was I going to say to him? How could I confront a man I had welcomed into my home, treated like family, with this knowledge? I wasn't even sure where to start. But I knew one thing, I couldn't let him walk away from this, no matter how charming or evasive he tried to be. I arrived at their house a few minutes early, parked in front of the driveway, and sat there for a moment, collecting myself. I took a deep breath, wiped the tears that were threatening to spill, and stepped out of the car. As I walked up the front steps, my stomach churned. The house was beautiful, newly furnished, a testament to the life Emily and Derek had started to build together. But today, the home felt like a prison, one that I was about to unlock. I knocked on the door. Derek answered, his face lighting up when he saw me. "Rose. Hey, it's great to see you." He stepped aside to let me in. His smile seemed genuine, his demeanor warm, but I could see the faintest flicker of something else in his eyes. "Derek, we need to talk," I said, walking past him into the living room without waiting for a response. Sure, of course," he replied, his voice still smooth, but his eyes narrowed slightly. "What's going on? You sound serious." I turned to face him, and for a moment, I almost couldn't speak. How had I been so blind to who he really was? "You're not who you say you are, Derek," I said, my voice steady despite the tremble in my hands. "I know about your past. I know about the things you've done." His smile faltered, just for a moment, but it was enough for me to see the change. The mask slipped. "What are you talking about, Rose?" He took a step closer, trying to regain his composure. "You've got this all wrong. You're just upset about the wedding, that's all. There's nothing to—" "Don't lie to me, Derek," I interrupted, my voice rising. "I know about the assault charge. The criminal connections. The people you've been involved with. You've been hiding all of this from Emily, from all of us, and I can't let you get away with it." His expression shifted, the calm facade cracking. He took another step toward me, his posture suddenly tense. "I don't know who you've been talking to, but you don't know anything about me, Rose. You don't know the things I've had to do to survive." "Survive?" I scoffed. "What do you mean, survive? This isn't about survival, Derek. This is about deception. You've been lying to my daughter and to me, and now I'm going to make sure she knows the truth. You don't get to keep living in this fairy tale, pretending you're someone you're not." He clenched his jaw, visibly struggling to maintain control. "You have no idea what you're talking about. I did what I had to do. I made mistakes, sure, but I've moved on. I'm a different person now." I shook my head. "You might be able to fool Emily, Derek, but you won't fool me. And you definitely won't fool her once she knows the truth. She deserves to know what kind of man she married." I could see the panic creeping into his eyes now, the cracks in his calm exterior becoming more and more obvious. "You can't tell her. You can't." "Why?" I challenged, my voice sharp. "Because you know she'll leave you? Because you can't control her once she knows who you really are?" He swallowed hard, then looked away, his gaze darting around the room as if searching for an escape. "You don't know what you're asking. You don't understand what will happen if she finds out. I can't let you do this." My heart broke for Emily, knowing how much she trusted this man, how much she loved him. But I couldn't let her stay in the dark any longer. "It's too late, Derek. I'm not going to let you hurt her anymore." He stood there, seething in silence, and for a moment, I thought he might lash out. But then he deflated, his shoulders sagging as the fight left him. "You don't know the full story," he muttered, almost too quietly for me to hear. "But fine. Tell her. Tell her everything. It's not like I can stop you." I stared at him, uncertain of what had just shifted. Was this a defeat? Or was he playing some other game? But it didn't matter. Emily needed to know. I was done being the silent bystander. It's a strange feeling, sitting on the edge of the bed, watching your daughter get dressed for an ordinary day, knowing that everything is about to change. Emily had no idea what was coming. She had no idea that the man she married, the man she trusted with her whole heart, wasn't who he said he was. I had spent the whole night turning the words over in my mind, preparing for the confrontation. How could I tell Emily about the things I'd uncovered? How could I break her heart like that? She was my only child, and I had spent my whole life trying to protect her. But the truth wasn't something I could keep from her. When Emily walked into the kitchen that morning, wearing a simple blouse and jeans, smiling as though the world was still the same, I felt a pang of guilt. How could I shatter her world, knowing what I did? But I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. "Morning, Mum," she called out, her voice light, her eyes bright. "Good morning, sweetie," I replied, forcing a smile. But inside, I was unraveling. "I made some coffee," I said, gesturing to the pot. "Sit down. We need to talk." The smile faltered a little as she slid into the chair across from me. "Talk about what?" I paused, my hands suddenly feeling clammy. This was it. "About Derek," I said quietly. Her expression shifted immediately, concern flashing across her face. "What's wrong with Derek? Is something happening? Did he do something to upset you?" I shook my head, fighting to keep my voice steady. "No, Emily. It's not that. It's about who Derek really is. I've been looking into his past, and Emily, you don't know the full story. I wish I didn't have to be the one to tell you this, but you deserve to know the truth." Her brow furrowed as she leaned forward. "What do you mean, Mum? What's going on with Derek?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Derek has a history, one that he's been hiding from you, from all of us. I don't know exactly what he's told you about his past, but I've found out the truth. He's not the man you think he is." Emily stared at me, her face pale. "What are you talking about?" "Mum, what do you mean?" "You're scaring me." "I don't want to scare you, sweetie. But Derek has a criminal past. He was involved in violent incidents when he was younger. There's a record, and I've seen it. He's also connected to people who are dangerous. I don't know the details, but I know enough to know that he's been hiding this from you. Hiding it from everyone." Her eyes widened as she took a step back. "Wait, what? Are you serious? What do you mean, violent incidents?" "He would never." "Emily," I interrupted gently, "I know this is hard to hear, but it's the truth. Derek has been involved in things that you don't know about. And I'm afraid that you've married someone who's not who he says he is." Her hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the table, her mind trying to process what I had just said. I don't believe this. Derek's not like that. He can't be. I mean, I've known him for so long. He's never shown me anything like that." I could see the confusion and the hurt in her eyes, and it broke my heart. "I know this is hard to believe, Emily. But I've seen the proof. I've seen the records, the photos, the connections he's kept hidden from you. I've even spoken to a private investigator who dug into his past, and it's all there. Derek has a history of violence. He was involved in an assault charge years ago, and there are criminal associations that he's tried to bury. It's all coming to light now." Emily shook her head, the tears welling in her eyes. No, this can't be true. I can't believe it. Derek wouldn't do that to me. He wouldn't." I stood up and walked over to her, my heart aching for the pain she was in. "Sweetie, I know you don't want to believe it. I didn't want to either. But sometimes, people hide things, and sometimes they do it for a reason. You need to understand that this isn't about ruining your life, it's about protecting you. You deserve to know the truth." She looked at me, her eyes red with confusion and hurt. "But why, Mum? Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Why didn't you give Derek a chance to explain?" I bit my lip, struggling to find the right words. "I didn't want to hurt you, Emily. I wanted to believe the best about Derek too. But I couldn't ignore what was staring me in the face. You deserve better than someone who hides such a big part of themselves. I just couldn't let you marry a man who's been lying to you." There was a long silence between us. I could see the weight of everything settling on her, the shock of my words sinking in. Emily sat there, motionless, as if trying to grasp the reality of what I had just told her. After what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke, her voice a quiet whisper. "Mum, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this." "You don't have to fix it, Emily. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself. The truth is out now, and whatever happens, I'll be here for you. We'll figure this out together. But you need to face this, and you need to make your own decision about what comes next. Emily stood up, her hands shaking as she wiped away a tear. I need some time to think. I don't know what to say right now. I nodded, not pushing her. Take all the time you need. But know that I'm here, no matter what you decide. She didn't say anything more before she left the room, and I could hear the sound of her footsteps as she walked up the stairs. I sat back down, the heaviness of what I had done weighing on me. I had told her the truth, and now I had to let her process it. I had done what was right, but I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would Emily confront Derek? Would she leave him? Or would she believe him when he said it was all in the past? I couldn't control her decisions, but I knew one thing for certain: I had done my part. Now, it was up to her to choose her own path. It had been 2 days since I told Emily the truth about Derek, and I hadn't heard much from her since. She'd retreated into herself, staying mostly in her room, avoiding calls, and hardly eating. I knew she was processing the bombshell I'd dropped on her, but every minute that passed without her reaching out made me more anxious. It wasn't just that I was worried about her, it was the uncertainty. I couldn't help but wonder whether she was coming to terms with everything I'd told her or whether she was still clinging to the illusion of Derek that she had once held so dearly. I tried calling her several times, but each time, it went straight to voicemail. I didn't want to pressure her, but my heart ached knowing she was alone in her head, trying to figure out what to do. After everything I'd uncovered, there was no easy way to move forward, and I feared she might stay with Derek out of fear, guilt, or simply because she didn't want to face the reality of the mess he'd created. I decided I had to give her space. I had to let her come to her own conclusions, no matter how painful it might be for both of us. But that didn't stop the worry gnawing at me. What if she chose to stay with him? What if she didn't believe the gravity of his past? What if I was too late to save her? On the evening of the 3rd day, Emily finally called me back. Her voice was steady but tinged with an emotion I couldn't place. "Hi, Mum," she said softly. "Hey, sweetie. How are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, though my heart was racing. "I'm okay. I think," she replied, hesitating. "I've been thinking a lot about everything you told me. About Derek. About his past." I could feel the weight in her voice. She was struggling, torn between the life she had imagined and the life I had forced her to confront. "I know this is hard, Emily," I said gently. "But you don't have to make any decisions right away. Take your time. Just know that whatever you choose, I'm here for you." There was a pause before she spoke again. "I spoke to Derek," she said. My heart skipped a beat. "And what did he say?" "He told me it was all in the past. That he made mistakes, but he's a different person now. He said he's not the same man he was when he was younger." Her voice faltered slightly. "But, it doesn't make sense, Mum. He was so convincing. He sounds like he's changed. And he told me he loves me. He said he'll do whatever it takes to make things right." I felt a pit in my stomach. Of course, he would say that. It was exactly what I'd expected. Derek was a master manipulator, and he knew just how to play the right cards when he was backed into a corner. He'd charm her, convince her that he was different now, that he'd put his past behind him. But I wasn't buying it. I knew too much now. I had seen the records, heard the stories, and spoken to Karen. Derek's past wasn't something you could simply erase with a few apologies. And the fact that Emily was even considering forgiving him sent a chill through me. "Emily," I said, my voice firm but loving, "you have to remember that people don't just change overnight. Derek may say he's changed, but his past is still a part of him. And it's not just about the things he's done, it's about the fact that he's lied to you about all of it. He's hidden who he really is. That's not the kind of person you want to build a life with." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, softly, she spoke. "I know, Mum. I know you're right. But it's hard. I love him. I want to believe that he's changed. I don't know if I can just walk away from him. The pain in her voice hit me like a physical blow. This was the hardest part, watching her struggle with the truth, knowing it would tear her heart apart to face it. You don't have to walk away alone, sweetie, I said gently, my heart breaking for her. I'll be here with you, every step of the way. You don't need to carry this weight by yourself. You deserve someone who loves you for who you are, someone who won't hide their past from you. You deserve more than what Derek can offer you. I know, Mom, Emily said, her voice barely audible. I think I do too. But it's still hard. I just don't want to be wrong. I understand. But sometimes, we have to make the hard choices, even if we're scared of being wrong. You've already seen who Derek really is. You can't ignore that. And you don't have to be afraid of what happens next. Emily didn't say anything for a while. I could hear the deep, ragged breaths on the other end of the line as she wrestled with herself. I think I need to talk to him again, she finally said, her voice filled with uncertainty. That's okay, I replied softly. Take your time. Do what you need to do. But whatever you decide, I'm here for you. I'll figure it out, Mom. I promise. When we hung up, I sat there for a long time, my heart heavy. I knew that Emily wasn't ready to make a decision yet, but the fact that she was even considering leaving Derek felt like a small victory. There was hope in her words, in the way she was starting to see things for what they really were. I had no idea what the future would hold for her, but I knew one thing for certain, Emily was strong, and she wasn't going to stay in a relationship that didn't serve her. And that gave me hope, too. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Emily had withdrawn even further, barely eating, barely sleeping. She spent most of her time locked in her room, only coming down for brief meals, her eyes heavy with the weight of the decision she was carrying. Derek stayed mostly out of sight, avoiding confrontation, avoiding Emily. It was clear that he knew the storm was coming, and he was bracing for the fallout. I did my best to support her, but the uncertainty was unbearable. She wouldn't tell me what was going on in her mind, but I could see the signs. She was torn. Every part of her wanted to believe Derek could change. She wanted to believe that the man she had married was the one who loved her, the one who would stand by her side no matter what. But the truth had a way of gnawing at her, and I could see it in her eyes, the conflict, the fear, the hurt. One evening, she finally called me into her room. I had been preparing dinner in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta when I heard her voice, weak but resolute, from the doorway. Mom. I think we need to talk. I turned, startled, and nodded, wiping my hands on the towel before walking over to her. Of course, sweetie. What's going on? She motioned for me to sit beside her on the bed. Her eyes were red from crying, but she seemed calm in a way that made me nervous. I knew she was processing everything, but I wasn't sure how much more she could take. I talked to Derek again, she said, her voice steady but laced with sadness. I told him everything, Mom. About what you told me. About the past, about the things I didn't know. I nodded, watching her closely, waiting for her to continue. He swore up and down that everything you said was a lie. He said you were trying to break us apart, that you didn't understand him, that you were just being dramatic. He kept saying he loved me, that he wanted to build a future with me, and that his past didn't matter. I clenched my jaw. Derek's usual tactics, denial, deflection, and manipulation, were in full force. But I wasn't surprised. This was his game. It was what he had done to her for so long. He wanted to keep her in the dark, keep her dependent on his charm, on the illusion of their perfect life. He was willing to lie to keep her by his side. But, Emily's voice broke through my thoughts, and I turned back to her. But I didn't buy it, Mom. I didn't believe him. A wave of relief washed over me, but I kept my expression neutral, giving her the space she needed. I've been thinking about everything, she continued. I thought I could ignore it. I thought I could pretend that the past didn't matter. But it does. It matters. I kept trying to make excuses for him, telling myself that he loved me, that he'd changed, but I can't keep doing that. I can't keep ignoring who he really is. I've seen it now. I know what he's capable of. And I can't stay with him, Mum. The words hung in the air between us, and I felt a lump rise in my throat. This wasn't the outcome I had hoped for in the beginning, but it was the one I knew she needed to make. It was the right decision, even if it felt like the hardest one. I'm so proud of you, I said softly, placing my hand on hers. You've made the right choice. And I know it wasn't easy. But you deserve better than him. You deserve someone who will love you without lies, without secrets. She nodded, her shoulders slumping as she let out a breath. I feel like I'm breaking, Mum. I've invested so much in this marriage, in this relationship, and now I feel like I'm losing everything. I loved him. I still do, in a way. But I can't keep living in this lie. You're not losing everything, Emily, I said firmly. You're gaining everything. You're gaining your peace of mind, your self-respect. You're gaining the chance to build a future that's truly yours, without someone else's baggage weighing you down. She squeezed my hand, her voice trembling. I know. But it doesn't make it hurt any less. I pulled her into a tight hug, holding her close as she let the tears flow. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to cry, to release everything she had been holding inside. She wasn't just mourning Derek. She was mourning the life she thought they had, the future she had dreamed about. And that was a pain I understood too well. But I knew, in my heart, that this pain would pass. It had to. The road ahead would be hard, but she would rebuild. She would find herself again, stronger and wiser for the lessons she had learned. The next morning, Emily sat down with Derek to end things. She told him everything she had learned, everything I had uncovered, and she made it clear that their marriage was over. Derek didn't take it well. There were arguments, accusations, and tears, but Emily stood her ground. She didn't back down. She finally saw Derek for who he truly was, a man who had lied, manipulated, and hurt her for far too long. And she wasn't going to let him do it anymore. That evening, after everything was said and done, Emily came to me. She was exhausted but resolute. It's over, Mum, she whispered. I told him I was done. I'm moving on. I held her tightly, not saying a word. She didn't need words right now. She needed the reassurance that she had made the right decision, that she was loved, and that she was safe. It had been 2 weeks since Emily ended things with Derek. 2 long, painful weeks of uncertainty, tears, and healing. The first few days were the hardest. Emily kept to herself, reflecting on everything she had lost, and everything she had gained. She had spent so many years wrapped up in the idea of what her life should look like, what her marriage should be, and it felt like everything had been pulled out from under her. But the truth, no matter how painful, had given her the strength to face the future. And I saw that strength in her now. She had come a long way in such a short time. The sadness still lingered in her eyes, but it wasn't the same as before. She was different, more grounded, more confident, and, in some strange way, freer than she had been in years. I'm glad you're home, I said, walking into the living room where Emily was sitting, flipping through a photo album from her wedding day. She had been quiet lately, but I knew she was starting to make sense of the past. I'm not sure I'll ever be able to look at those pictures the same way, she said, her voice soft, though there was a glimmer of something in her eyes, determination, maybe, or perhaps relief. I spent so much time trying to perfect the life I thought I wanted, and now I see it all so differently. I sat down beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. You don't need to apologize for that, Emily. You wanted happiness, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes, in the search for it, we get lost in illusions. Now, you can rebuild, starting with who you are, not who you thought you had to be. She smiled faintly, nodding. I don't even know what I want anymore, Mum. I feel like I've been living someone else's dream for so long. I guess I need to figure out what my dream really is. You will, I said, squeezing her hand. You're stronger than you know. It might take time, but you'll get there. I'm proud of you for making the hard choices. It's never easy to let go of something you thought would work out. Emily paused, then looked up at me. I've been thinking about something, actually. I'm not sure where I'm going with all this, but I feel like I need to take a step back. Maybe a change of scenery would help. I need to find myself again, outside of everything that's tied to Derek and that whole life I had. I felt my heart swell with pride. She was taking control of her life, no longer allowing herself to be defined by someone else's actions. I think that sounds like a great idea. Do you have any thoughts on where you want to go? Emily took a deep breath, her gaze turning inward. I've been thinking about a place by the coast. Maybe somewhere I can focus on my art, you know? I've always wanted to do something creative. Maybe it's time I finally give it a shot. I could see the spark of excitement in her eyes as she spoke. She had always been a creative soul, but she had buried that part of herself in favor of following the predictable path. Now, with Derek gone and the weight of the past starting to lift, she was finally opening herself up to the possibilities of what her life could be. That sounds wonderful, Emily, I said, smiling. I think it's time you rediscovered that part of yourself. You deserve it. Over the next few weeks, Emily took steps toward her new life. She spent her days painting, writing, and taking long walks by the lake near our home. She slowly began to put her life back together, brick by brick, starting with the foundation of who she was before Derek came into her world. And as she did, I could see her becoming the woman I always knew she could be, the one who knew her worth and wasn't afraid to chase her dreams. As for Derek, we heard through mutual friends that he had tried to contact Emily several times, but she didn't respond. She didn't need to. She had made her peace with the past, and she wasn't looking back. One evening, we sat together in the kitchen, a fresh batch of cookies cooling on the counter, and I felt a sense of calm settle over me. Emily was home. She was safe. And more than that, she was beginning to live her life on her own terms. Mum, she said, looking up from the painting she had been working on, thank you. For everything. For always being there for me, even when I didn't want to hear it. I smiled warmly at her, my heart full. You don't need to thank me, sweetie. I'll always be here, no matter what. I just want you to be happy. I am, she said, her smile genuine. For the first time in a long time, I actually feel like I'm starting to find my own happiness. And it feels good. As I watched her continue to paint, her brushstrokes confident and free, I knew that this was only the beginning for her. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. She was stronger, wiser, and, most importantly, she was free to live her life however she chose. It was a new chapter for both of us. And I knew, deep down, that we were both going to be okay. Author's note. The journey of Emily's self-discovery is a reminder that sometimes we must confront uncomfortable truths in order to reclaim our own lives. Though difficult, her decision to break free from a toxic relationship allowed her to rediscover her passions and take control of her future. It's a testament to the strength we all have within us to start anew, no matter the circumstances.